I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Sparky.
And Salty.
We're about to do a band we've never done before. Before?
Okay.
Before.
I know, Septic Flesh. People have been asking for this for a while.
Yeah, the name of the record is Communion. So that looks interesting. I guess one of the guitarists is has a master's in operatic whatever.
Oh, really?
So I'm setting the bar pretty high for this. Well, the musicianship in particular. So there you go, Septic Flesh. Wanna send a shout out to everybody who heard our original joint.
I know. Thanks for listening.
It's definitely not the reaction I was expecting. Because we had posted the Hush Yael video.
Yep.
It had 947, and then we just randomly decided to publish the Breathe video, and the Breathe video within an hour was at 1,000 views.
I know, it overtook
this is
it there
crazy.
for a while. I was like, what?
Thank you so much for the feedback. Mostly, I also want to thank out the people that were critical. We had a couple people that were like, "This sucks," blah blah blah. But they had a breakdown.
Wackety whack or something. Wiggity whack.
Well, yeah, those are just. But there's some that have real this and that, and I really appreciate that. I really like that. I mean, for me, it's you guys know my policy. It's what I wanted to hear from that type of beat. That's for all of you who don't know, that's a classic hip hop beat, of all time, that Quiet Storm beat. So it's that was the type of song I've always wanted to hear with that beat. And so I just kind of did that for myself. So, definitely no hard feelings about the criticism. It'd be kind of hypocritical.
I know. You cannot react to our song.
Negatively to our song. Although I could say, of anybody, we have the right to be upset about a low score. Because
Why?
it's our art.
Oh, yeah.
You get other people upset when we give a low score to somebody else's art. It's you didn't even put in the time and the work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate the time that people took to critique it and break it down. I loved it. I mean, obviously, somebody's trying to get the raw audio file so that they can mix it better, because apparently I mixed it terribly. But anyway, also shout out to the big homie OTEP. We've posted the interview. It's a fucking long, epic interview.
I know. She hung out for a while.
Yeah, and just for context, there was a bus accident. They had a major accident.
You hear about it in the interview. She'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's just toward the end, so I just want to make sure people understood. There was a major accident, and it was literally 20 minutes after the accident happened, where she called
still
us.
came for the interview.
And she called me directly. It was insane. She's like, "What's your number?" And called us directly from her personal. It was just insane. And then she stayed 3 hours. So I know there's a lot of perceptions of her that she was some sort of feminazi or whatever people want to say.
I loved her.
But she was more accommodating than I would have been after a fucking bus accident. That is the easiest way to get out of an interview.
Or she could have cut it short too, and that would have been fine.
She stayed with us from the bus accident to sound check.
Yeah.
Because she had a show in an hour.
Yeah. She stayed the whole time, and then even the whole interview is almost 2 hours, I think, or something like that. 2.5 hours. But then, on top of that, there's probably another, 30, 45 minutes that got released to the patrons, or will be released to the patrons once she clears that it's good. That's the after discussions. She stayed for a long time.
Anyway, shout out to the big homie OPEF. All right, so OTEP, not OPEF. I don't want to do that.
How dare you?
All right, let's go. Septic Flesh. I hate the name of that band. Honestly, it's one of the reasons I've stayed away from the band.
Because the name?
It's so gross.
I know.
Ugh.
I know. I get a nasty visual too.
All right, go ahead. Hit play.
Decay
Whoa.
That sound, was that in the song?
No, it was downstairs, but they don't even know what you're talking about because I silenced it for them.
Okay.
So ignore this.
Ignore it.
Ignore the man in the corner.
I'm pretty certain that this song is about H.P. Lovecraft.
Who's that?
He's an author. And he writes, he wrote horror stories.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell you which part I was like, whoa. Was like when they said, with notes and raving rhythms to spread the seed of lurking fear into the heart of man.
Well, he was an author that wrote scary shit.
Yeah. And then the other part that probably was more like, was where it said, you know too well that minds like yours can never rest in peace. That is such a scary thought to have if you believe it. Like, if somebody, like, spoke that and then you were like, it's true, my mind will never rest in peace. And like,
it seems like...
Then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know what I mean? It has begun.
It seems like this is like a demon or whatever speaking to him and basically saying, you thought that they were stories, but you were tapping into some real shit.
Yo!
You know
I missed that.
So it's like, you know, it says right there, the haunter of the dark will come to take you to our realm. Your life, your books, march in front of your closing eyes. So it really...
Lovecraft in the realm. I bet you're right.
It really taps into a thought that I have a lot when I read or see horror or whatever, like Dante, right? Like Dante's Inferno, you know, it's just kind of like, what's the... You know, like when people start writing mystical stories about like the spiritual realm, it's like, if you're supernaturalists like us and you believe that there's shit happening behind the scenes, that there are like conscious beings that
are influencing
that operate in separate dimensions that influence this dimension, like how much of that do you know, like
how much is in the book?
This is kind of raising the question of like, we hid this stuff in there and you thought that it was just you were coming up with interesting shit, when in reality you were helping us spread the seeds of lurking fear.
My parents, now I mean, don't quote me because I might have the story a little bit. That's true. I know my parents were doing like this Bible study at their house like when we were kids, and I remember like a bunch of people coming over, and I remember there was like some, I don't know, some chaos one night. Anyway, like apparently there was a guy that used to be, I guess they call him a warlock, and he was, I guess, deep, I don't know, he was deep into like black magic or deep, I don't know, there's different like levels apparently of this magic stuff, which I'm unfamiliar with, but he was saying like there's like gentle magic, I guess. He had specific words. I was a kid, and so my mom retold me the story when I got a little older, but there's like stuff, you know, like card tricks and like different, like then there's like magic, like there's different things that are actually, and then like there was degrees, and like when you got into the deeper levels, and he was saying that apparently some like different, and I can't tell you which films that they are, but there are some films where a lot of satanic or like deep darkness stuff is happening, and in those films they will consult people who actually have interactions with the supernatural, so that way they can get it as close to accurate as they can.
We just did this song. It was about and they said, you know, we went, basically descended to myth or something like that. Let me try to find it, because I think it's no. It's Cradle of Filth. The Cradle of Filth song, where the demons were saying like we descended into mythology, basically. So the demons were talking and they're saying, you know, we descended into mythology or whatever, and it's like, you know, Jordan. I think there's like here's the obligatory Jordan Peterson quote.
I know, every single time.
He talks about because he believes that he talks about Genesis, and he sees all of Genesis as mythology, but the simplest way of saying it for him as a psychologist is to say it's mythology in the sense that it didn't happen according to like every jot and tittle, but psychologically it is passing on a certain locus. You know, it's the locus of wisdom that we have, and so Peterson's like, this is mythology, but you can't dismiss it or whatever. Now I don't believe that. You know, we're old school, we're Christians. Do you think a snake talked to Eve? Well, I think a Nakash talked to Eve, and that's what it says in the text. It's a Nakash, and we can talk about that in the Bible study later at some point, maybe. Who knows? But the point is like the line, like for example, Hellraiser. Like we came this close to scoring a Hellraiser. I think we got him angry because we gave him 3. It's like, how do you tap into that degree of like evil and darkness and like not get, because like it tastes different. Like when you're watching like a movie about a dude like going around serial killing, it's like it's terrible, it's horrible, but there's just a different atmosphere that real spiritual darkness brings into a room.
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
So it's like, to be the author of that, you've got to kind of immerse yourself in that, and it seems like this demon is talking to him and saying like, basically, thank you very much, but you know too much. It says right there, the time is out, you saw too much. You know, and so you'll never be able to rest in peace because, like, you know, all the research and all the other things that you have to do to write a good, dark horror novel.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very interesting angle that these guys are taking.
Yep.
Just like, you went too far.
Who's that guy that's from Maine, The Shining?
Stephen King.
Yeah. I heard like he won't even just sleep with the lights off in his place. Like.
Yeah, but he's not a very dark author.
I mean, I saw The Shining. That was pretty freaky.
You try to name the unnameable. And he talks about, you know, obsessed with the Necronomicon. And the
Sorry, guys. You know, Vin was telling me that even in heaven we're still gonna do stuff like that because it's not sinful. You're just gonna still. So in heaven I'll still be fucking up the camera. Only I probably won't say fuck. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go back to it.
The Arab's wicked dream. You found a path to Azathoth and walked the Dagon's realm. You know, Dagon is the
god that they would sacrifice their babies to, right? They would put it. Didn't he have like the metal arms and they would put the baby there?
That was Molech.
Oh, that was Molech.
Which
one was it? Oh, Dagon was the one that fell face first and got his arms and stuff broken off.
Dagon was a Philistine.
Yeah, that's right.
Very related to a fish. Because they were seafaring people, you know. But it's like all these A&E, you know, references where like you get the old darkness.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting about this is like, you know, Europeans think that I don't think that. I'm not going to say they think that, but if you would look at like black metal, you would assume that like Satanism and dark spirituality originated in Europe. It really didn't. It originated in the A&E, in the ancient Near East, in the cradle of civilization, where all religion came from. And you originally got spiritual darkness from that region of the world, which is extremely interesting, right? Because in Europe, everything's, you know, dark and you have long winters, so like dark spirituality makes a ton of sense. In the A&E, it's all sunny and bright and shit, and here you have these people with some real dark shit, doing evil shit. And really, the pagans really like couldn't hold a candle to the ancient Near Eastern devil worshippers, if you will. Well, you know, like on Vikings, they sacrifice a person every 9 years. I mean, these people were setting their kids on fire systematically, like as their offering to Molech and all the rest of it. So it's like, it is a good call out that a lot of this shit is like, you know, Arabian, you know, the Arab's wicked dream, you know, Arabian Nights and all that good jazz, but like, there's a lot of dark shit in the Middle East, and that's where all this shit originated from our view of the world. So that was very interesting. The music of Eric Zahn is I'm 95% certain that the music of Eric Zahn is a book actually that he wrote.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the Call of Chulu is actually, Chulu is you know what?
It said it was disguised.
You know what Chulu, Chulu, you ever seen Chulu? So we'll Google it later on, but Chulu is like this god, and he's like super powerful demon or whatever, and there's actually a Metallica song. It's an instrumental I think it's on the Ride the Lightning record, I'm not sure, called The Call of Cthulhu.
The name is funny. You know, listen,
yeah, but he's a really powerful...
When you hear something for the first time that you've never heard, you can have like a totally different opinion of it than other people do. Cthulhu sounds like a little chubby guy.
Yeah, but he's a real powerful principality.
It does not sound like that at all.
Yeah, from a biblical perspective, he'd probably be a principality.
Wow.
You know, like he's an extremely, you know, powerful demon, whatever you want to call him. And it's like, we hid that. You know, like, that here you were, like, you know, so it's like, it's a very interesting thing, because if you have, like, a completely naturalistic worldview, you just mock all this stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you know, you're just putting words on paper, and it like, really explores the idea of what would it be like to be a horror writer? You devoted your life to writing horror, and then now you're facing death. And what if all that scary shit that you would think about as a horror writer, now you're going to actually face it?
Yeah. When we were watching...
That would really fuck you up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's a crazy thought to me.
When we were watching Viking, is it Vikings or Viking? Vikings? Okay, so when we were watching that, remember that part? Well, I won't say any names. And so anyway, you remember there was that guy that they killed in that horrible fashion?
Yeah.
Okay, but do you remember like his face, like the terror when he knew he was gonna... But you just been mowing people down throughout this whole film, you know what I mean? And now all of a sudden it's your turn, and then you're like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of reminds me of that, like, you've been putting out all of this satanic stuff for people to consume, and you filled people's hearts with fear, like it says down there, like, spread the seed of lurking fear into the heart of man. He spread that seed all over the place. And now, as it's time for him to die or whatever, like, all that stuff is coming to get him. Like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, we talked about, like, the distraction theory of art. Yeah, I think it's, like, Freud and a couple other people postulated that we have things like art and entertainment to distract us from all of our impending deaths. So when you apply that principle to this type of art, to horror, to that type of art, then it has some very interesting implications, because if art is designed to distract us from our impending death, then why have we come up with a genre that's almost exclusively devoted to the concept of death and what happens after? And well, you could say, a person could respond by saying, well, this particular genre of art is basically human consciousness saying, okay, we can't avoid death no matter what we try to do to distract ourselves. Let's find a way to look it in the face. And then after you've experienced death in this horror, you're able to pull yourself away with it, and you're still alive. So there's a resurrection in a sense, because you're experiencing so much death in the literature and the art.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
And then, like, you've experienced it, you looked it in the face, you saw what happened, and basically death throws at you the scariest thing you could possibly do. You're scared to death. You say things like that, but then you can pull out of it when the book is over, and here you are alive.
Whoa.
So from that perspective, he's actually doing a service, because he's saying, okay, well, here you go, like, you know, let's put you face to face with it. Of course, these demons are saying, well, that wasn't the way to go.
Interesting. Do you think that they... Oh, fuck, my thought just went away because I was still thinking about what you said. Do you think that there's a sense in which when they read the book and they experience, like, whoa, all this, like, craziness, and then, like you say, they pull out, and then there's, like, kind of like that resurrection feeling because they're still alive, but do you think that they're thinking, well, it can't be as bad as what I just read?
I think there's a part of that, too.
So then it kind of makes you feel better.
Yeah, like you create this exaggerated, you know, idea of what death is going to be like and how horrible it is, and when in reality, most people are not going to go out in that crazy way, especially in the modern world. Most people are going to go out in the hospice, you know, chock full of morphine, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting with Christian theology. If you look at, like, a lot of the post-Black Plague art, it was surrounding death.
Yeah.
And so,
well, all of the stories that the kids, like, all of those
nursery rhymes,
like the stories, like The Little Mermaid or the different ones like that. Like, if you, those are
Hansel and Gretel.
Now they don't have it like that, but, like, if you read the originals, they're very, like, there's always death. But they were, I guess, I heard that they did that because there was so much death, and it was surrounding so many people that it was so much a part of, like, it's probably like today, like, it seems like every single time I sit down to watch a film with the kids, it's about parents getting divorced.
Right.
It probably there's probably...
Well, sure, art imitates life.
Yeah.
In this particular case, art imitates death, and it's like, it's a very interesting... This is a pretty unique idea. If I'm right, if I'm right, and this is what they're going.
When he says you time is out, you saw too much, you use the silver key. Do you know of any reference with that? Like, I understand what he's saying with the silver key. Like, in other words, you use something to get into it, and now you can't go back. Like, you can't turn back from it, and it's something that he engaged in.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know if it was like another story that ties why silver, why not gold, why.
Yeah, I don't know. The silver key is probably some reference to a book that he's written,
That's what
where
I was
a person uses a key to enter into another realm.
Yep.
And of course,
if you know the answer to that, put 2 asterisks and put sorry.
Email us because it'll get lost in the
comments.
In the comments. Watch all.
I was just gonna scroll through and look for sorry.
There's thousands of them. I
Vin and Sori.
Vin and Sori at gmail.com. Yeah, it says your friends were haunted too. Do you remember Charles? I don't know if he means Charles Dickens.
Oh my gosh.
As far as people. Haunted authors, I'm not sure, but it's an interesting concept. And of course,
this is completely unique. We have not done any songs like this.
No, we haven't. A whisper in the darkness, and it's like it makes you think to yourself, like, what are the mechanisms that all of us are actually using to face death? Mm-hmm. Because in Christian theology, you kind of have the horror, we're gonna look death in the face stuff, and you also have the what people would say fantasy, we're gonna rise from the dead stuff, simultaneously in Jesus, right? So you have Jesus who has the most horrible death possible, and then you're commanded to look at it because you're commanded to look to the cross. You're actually commanded to participate in the most horrible death possible, right? To take up your cross and follow Jesus. But so there's it's absolute horror because it says, he was mangled beyond human recognition, Isaiah 52:13, right? So on the one hand, it's like there's that horror genre. The crucifixion is a horror genre, like, because you're in Western culture and you're in a Christianity saturated world. You have golden crosses and people wearing golden crosses and all the rest, or even in your rosary beads. It doesn't communicate the actual horror of what a person actually looked like when they were crucified. So that's the pinnacle of horror is the crucifixion, but then the pinnacle of fantasy is the resurrection, right? And so it's like you have both combined onto one person, and then the theology that came from that was, okay, so
that's the empty cross too, like combining those two thoughts, the horror of the cross and the resurrection, because when people wear just like an empty cross.
Empty cross, right. Which I never understood how an empty cross symbolizes a resurrection. All it means is that he got taken off the cross.
Yeah,
I
don't
know
understand how but people always say, I see what you're saying.
I just never understood that. I was
but in your mind, you just finished the story.
I never did that. Anytime I saw an empty cross, I just saw. I actually liked the Jesus on the cross stuff. I don't like the empty cross stuff at all.
Why?
Because, you don't see the New Testament doing that. There are times when the New Testament... You don't see them doing
the crucifix either.
Well, there are times when the New Testament speaks of Jesus as if he just got crucified. Like, for example, in Galatians, where Paul says, you foolish Galatians, of whom Christ was clearly portrayed as being crucified in front of you. Mm-hmm. So, or, the book of Revelation constantly calling him the Lamb this, the Lamb that, which is, again, a reference to him being crucified.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, John sees Jesus in Revelation 5 as a lamb as if it had been slain.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to make any images of God. So how is the crucifix?
I'm saying the Christless image of the crucifix, where you have an empty cross, which is
but maybe they did that because
it's in a certain Protestant tradition.
Yes.
But
maybe they did it because you're not supposed to make any images.
No, they're trying to. Well, there's a Roman Catholic iconography that there's a conflict between Protestants and Catholics with that.
Yes.
I get that, but to me, it's a silly idea to take Jesus off the cross and say, okay, that symbolizes the resurrection. It just doesn't follow logically for me at all.
I I see what you're saying.
Because everybody that Jesus got crucified with had empty crosses at the end of the day.
Yes, and then they probably reused
what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
Like, if you're looking at the empty cross, it could even have been Jesus' cross. It could have been the other thief.
Yeah.
So
no, I see what you're saying.
It has nothing to do with anything. I'm just saying with Christianity, that the New Testament kind of has this. You overcome by the blood and the lamb of the word of your testimony by not loving your life unto death. It says they did not love their lives unto death. So the way you overcome death is by embracing your death in Christian theology in the New Testament.
Yep.
And realizing that death is not the end of everything. That there's life after death. And so you embrace death. You look it in the face, and that's how you overcome it.
Do you think one of the ways I understand that you get there by grace. Like, that you have to have a certain level of grace to be able to do that. But also, what? Stop doing that!
Now you want to find some way to work it. Go ahead.
A little bit, yes.
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, like when just painful stuff happens in your life that, like, I'm not saying self-inflicted pain. Like, you did something and then, you've been robbing from your friends because you're supporting your drug habit, and now nobody wants you to sleep at their house and you feel upset and hurt about that. I'm not talking about that. Like, that's like consequences for actions. I'm saying, like when people say when it rains it pours, like nobody could have predicted that car accident was going to happen, or that person was going to get cancer and then it was going to affect you. Like, do you think that dealing with painful situations in life that are unavoidable, and that you, instead of letting that make you into a bitter, angry person, you embrace it and allow it to, like, change you as a person and make you a better person? Do you think that helps you to embrace your death when it's time? Like, you just take them as they come to you, like, as life comes to you. I mean, avoid, obviously, the pain that we can avoid, but some things are just, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and actually the person that recommended this song, Nicola, I've been having a conversation with him. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell because I've never died before. Well, I mean, I'm still here, so I've never died before, so I can't tell. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know for a fact, like, there are some people that go into conflicts where they could die, and some people die well, and some people don't. And quite frankly, a lot of it has to do with where their head is at theologically and what they think their purpose on the earth is. I mean, I'm saying that's my experience. I'm not saying that's a definitive proof of anything. I'm just saying what I've seen. And of course, the other side of that is, some of these people take these crazy DMT trips like Jordan Peterson talks about, and they feel much more ready to die than not experiencing it. So, and I'm not recommending that. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. But it is. They
always sound like they met up with some demons. So maybe that's just more deception.
Well, again, they're demons from our perspective and angels from their perspective. You know what I mean? Like,
Nobody's been saying that Joker character is an angel.
Well, when I say angels, I mean they feel that those interactions had positive ramifications for them, and so based on that, they say that being that I encountered was a good one.
Yeah, I think Adam and Eve, if they wouldn't have felt the consequences of their sin, they may have thought the same thing. Their interaction with Shaitan in there, giving them knowledge,
Well, I don't think, and this is for the Bible study later, but I don't think that was their first interaction with him.
Oh, right.
So
that's right. I remember you said that now, yeah.
So, it's
so
take that for what it's worth. But it is, it's just, the Black Sabbath song that we did recently, where it was about the shadow figure at the foot of the bed, and I said, I was talking about people who are complete naturalists who scoff at everything, and I just said, share your experiences. There are like literally hundreds of people who've experienced like dark shit that they can't get over. And Solomon Kane sent me a video of Ozzy performing the song, and Solomon Kane is by no means a Christian. He was like, dude looks possessed. Like, he's like, look at this. Well, I mean, yeah. So it's like, people want to think that the world is like completely, and here's the thing when I say like completely naturalistic, I'm not even saying that there isn't some sort of natural explanation for what we call spiritually dark phenomena. They very well may be. because I believe that God uses means. So it's very, very possible that 5,000 years from now we'll be able to say, okay, this is what we're calling demons. These are these beings from this other dimension who are conscious or whatever. You know, but it's like, you know, okay, you want to keep playing around with like dark shit because, you know, there's a reason people are drawn to it. Like a lot of people will say to me like I'm inexplicably drawn to that stuff. And I was reading the comments under the Black Sabbath video. I'm like, okay, this was a mistake. Because there's like hundreds of them where people have these terrible experiences at night and it's like, oh my God.
I didn't read them.
Yeah, I left them all up here because I do think it's instructive for people to realize that, like, you know, I don't see a demon on every rock, but if you want to play around with that shit, okay. Like, I think this is like begging the question, like, can you cross a line into tap into things dimensionally that you don't know about, that you shouldn't open for yourself, you know? And it's not a fear thing. It's like, this is a guy who completely devoted himself to that shit. So it's like, you know, that's probably a little bit too far. And can you do that, like, psychologically, if you want to take the supernatural element out of it? Like, can you do that psychologically? Can you like, completely be grounded and focused on death for, you know, as your life's work, and not death as your life's work? That's pretty ironic. And not be affected adversely by it, even psychologically.
Right.
So that's an interesting thought. All right, what do you give the song?
I'm going between an 8.5 and a 9, actually. Because I was going to give it like an 8, but then when we broke down the lyrics, I'm like, this is some real shit. So I almost want to give it like a 9.5. I don't know. I'm between an 8.5 and a 9.5. What are you at?
It's a solid 9 for me. I thought that the musicianship wasn't as like
crazy
technical
as I thought it was
and complex as I thought it was going to be.
I'd agree with that.
But it was still heavy though.
Yeah.
I like the heaviness. I like the tone. I am very interested in this guy's vocal style. So hopefully we get more Septic Flesh requests. And hopefully there can be some Carnival requests because I'm still stuck on that one song. I'm a soul breaker. I'm a fluid mind. That little funk bass line. All right. So you get the 9.5 for you?
No, I'm gonna go. I was going, and so you help sway me. Whenever I'm like that, I want you to say it. So it's a 9 for me.
It's a 9 for me. All right, so check for that OTEP interview pretty soon. Yep. Check out Breathe by Vin and Sori.
Ready.
Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.